What's up, guys and girls? It's Ghost Robo. Today we are talking about what I think is one of the most surprising, impressive, and awesome games of E3 2016, and that is God of War 4, otherwise known now as just God of War for PS4. This game looked absolutely incredible. I saw the trailer and gameplay at the Sony press conference, and then I had a chance to go behind closed doors with Cory Barlog, who is heading and helming up this project, longtime God of War master, and hear more about the game, see an extended demo, and ask some questions from the man himself and the team. And I gotta say, this was an interesting E3 for a lot of beloved franchises. We saw Assassin's Creed sit it out. We saw Gears of War basically rinse and repeat, and we see God of War really mixing things up. And I mentioned before the start of the show that I thought God of War and Gears of War, the two Gaos, would have an interesting showing, and it would be curious to see, you know, how they perform for their respective platform holders, Microsoft and Gears and Sony and God of War. And I gotta say, I think God of War took this fight with a KO punch. For sure. Not to say Gears of War looked bad. It looked good. But they didn't really offer anything new. It felt very much just like Gears of War 3, now with prettier graphics and JD instead of Marcus. Maybe Horde 3.0 offers something phenomenal, although we haven't seen anything of that yet. And initially there were reports that Gears of War 4 was going to take things in a dramatically new direction, but then after fear of fan pushback and extreme desire for more of the same, they went with a much more true to Gears of War 4. God of War, on the other hand, decided to really mix things up while still retaining the madness and the awesomeness that has made God of War so successful. Right off the bat, you notice that they flip the perspective, they take things to the Norse side of mythology, and they add a child to the equation. Cory Barlog spoke about how you kind of make what you know, and right now in his life, he's been thinking a lot about parenting and passing knowledge and talent and experience down to your child, and so that's what this game focuses on. Kratos passing his experience down to his offspring. And you'll see Kratos, be frustrated and be angry and be a complete crazy combatant, but he does have a bit of a softer side to him, more of a human side, and they're really trying to bring out the plot and the emotion in this God of War. A lot of people drew similarities to The Last of Us, Joel and Ellie traveling through the forest, Kratos and Kid traveling through the forest. Obviously, a very different genre when it comes to the main game mechanics, but you'll see similarities in a lot of titles that were shown off at E3. Days Gone, God of War, especially on the Sony side, bearing quite a resemblance to The Last of Us. And I'm okay with that, because sometimes it's great to borrow from the best. And if we take some combat nods from Dark Souls and we take some story nods from Last of Us, perhaps this God of War can be the best God of War that has ever been pressed to a disc. The combat looks brutal and has a very physical nature like it should, but by changing the camera to an over-the-shoulder third-person perspective, I feel like the combat has gained better one-on-one battles. God of War was always great at the arena combat and the boss battles, but it seems like now the individual encounters, at least to me, will be even more intense. They obviously switched from the blades to an axe. And someone asked, why the axe in the behind closed doors session? Why give him that weapon? And the lead combat designer said, one, it fits the mythology. It fits sort of this Norse time period and environment. And they did make note that this is the same Kratos, right? It's the same Kratos from Greek mythology. He somehow has moved into Norse, and they said if you look at the years, it kind of matches up and can kind of work. They're not giving specific years, but at some point, sort of the Greek reign and the Viking reign overlapped a little bit, and this is set early in sort of that Norse period. So Kratos' axe can be thrown, it can be retrieved. It's a multi-purpose and functional weapon that can also be used to manipulate the world, because now world exploration is something that is a heavy factor in your time with God of War. In the extended demo I saw, there were alternate paths, there were hidden paths, there was resource pickup, there was collectibles. You can see little experience point things in different categories pop on the bottom right of your screen during the footage you're watching right here. And they said that the RPG systems in God of War 4 are going to be far more deep and involved than ever before, which I'm excited about. I love building a character, upgrading moves, and having some control over what kind of a build my character has, especially in a game like this gorgeous, where you can add elements, it looks like, to your weaponry, where the enemies have elements, and where hopefully eventually you'll be gaining more weapons. Someone asked about more weapons, and he said he wouldn't give a definitive answer, but it sounded like they're definitely in there. And there also will be upgrades and RPG systems for the kid, which is really cool. I asked Cory Barlog the question of how much of the game will the boy be a part of, and he said a large majority, if not all of it, and that's what I've heard elsewhere as well, is that the boy is going to be with you the whole way. So much so that they have a dedicated boy button. There's a button to activate the boy, and I think this could create some very interesting puzzle-solving and combat scenarios. Early on, he seems more of a nuisance. He's got to get out of the way. It's almost too convenient. You just put him up on a cliffside or up on a rock and hope that no one goes for him. If I was a bad guy, I would go straight for the boy and really get Kratos where it hurts. But bad guys probably aren't that bright, especially these large muffin-headed trolls. But imagine later in the game, the boy grants powers. What if eventually you can give him certain weapons? What if you can, like, hey, I'm going to use this new spear weapon and give the boy the axe. Now we create these awesome NPC combo attacks, almost in like Batman Arkham Knight, how you could use, you know, Batman and Nightwing, Batman and Robin, Batman and Catwoman to do attacks together, and that was really fun, even just as one player controlling two characters, sort of pseudo-controlling one and fully controlling the other, switching back and forth. Or maybe for puzzle solving, now you'll be able to, you know, have two different angles for more complex puzzles. Perhaps you'll even be able to switch off as the boy. If the game borrows as much of The Last of Us as it seems to be, I'm guessing we'll play as the boy at some point, and maybe we even get to save Kratos. Maybe the boy becomes so strong that he can fight in his own, or maybe there's a real emotional moment where Kratos realizes he's taken this innocent soul, and through his desire to harden him for the world around him, he creates almost a monster like he has been in the past, God of War 1, 2, and 3. A lot of decoration in the environments, a lot of storytelling going on in the world around you. A giant troll hangs from the bridge, killed by captors, and now those captors are no longer because the troll we just fought had breakfast with them, and it didn't end well. But the game is very cinematic. They talked about how initially Cory Barlog wanted to move the perspective about halfway, and the combat designers were like, no, we want to keep it above, over the head, kind of that traditional isometric God of War look. And then he was like, well, go back and see if there's anything you can create and what would be best for combat in the next generation of God of War. And they came back to him with an even closer perspective, which is what you see here, which is really cool, that the combat designers were the ones who dictated ultimately the camera perspective. So you can be sure that the mechanics and the battle design of this game is the driving force. So don't fear that Kratos in God of War has gone soft or that it's become a sappy storyline. You still will have brutality and badass battles. They specifically said they wanted to highlight a more calm and emotional part of the campaign in order to showcase something new they've learned, something new they're trying out. Everyone knows that God of War can do the crazy giant battles. How giant will they be this time? That's something I'm excited for. God of War 3 had phenomenal scope and size, and I hope that they bring that to 4 even more often. You got the power, you got the arenas, you got the perspective to really do some magical giant battles. I love the Shadow of Colossus style climb at the beginning of God of War 3, and I'd like to see a couple of those here, but now in the Norse world. Also of note, and very cool, is that there will be a seamless start-to-finish experience, meaning no fades to black, no traditional pull-away cutscenes. You will be with Kratos and Kid from start to finish, and that's something that I think really adds a lot of just genuinity to a storyline and immersion, because now you're with him the whole way. He's not leapfrogging around from time to time or place to place. You get to see everything that happens, and I think it better attaches you to the protagonist of the game. That's not to say he won't do any crazy forms of traveling or have a bunch of different environments within the Norse world. He still can ride on the back of dragons or travel into weird caves beneath the earth, but you will be following him the entire way, which I think is cool, their commitment to cinematography and to production values. I think it's very interesting that the team for God of War decided to upgrade the game, to keep what was great about God of War and find a way to take it to the next level for a new generation of gamers and a new generation of consoles. I was very weary of God of War 4 going into E3. I think a lot of people were. There wasn't a whole lot of excitement. Everyone knew it was coming. We knew we'd see Kratos, but everyone kind of were like, okay, it's going to be God of War. We've seen God of War how many times? You know, not really into that. Kind of, you know, worn out on those games. Don't really want to see it. I mean, I still think it would have been fun to play, but it would have felt a little bit, you know, meh. Instead, they find a way to upgrade the entire franchise, and not in a reboot, and not in a retelling, but just in an evolution. And I think that's really the sign of great game development and really passionate creative designers, is that they want to level up their efforts. They want to take pieces from other games, whether it's Dark Souls in combat, Last of Us in storytelling, and previous God of Wars in brutality, and mix them together. You know, they always say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So imitate from those games that everyone loves and try to create something that everyone loves even more. I definitely foresee this being a phenomenal title when it comes out. I can't wait to see more environments. It looks amazing. Like, the graphics are beautiful. E3 this year really came to bat with visuals. I was shocked and surprised by stuff like God of War 4 and Detroit Become Human, how gorgeous they looked running on regular PS4s. Imagine when we get Scorpio and PS4 Neo, how good games are going to look. Right now, though, they are stunning. I don't know when God of War 4 will release. I'm guessing late 2017, maybe even early 2018. It depends how far along they really are. A surprise summer 2017 release would be amazing but shocking, and I hope we see more at PSX later this year. The game seems pretty far along just based on the polish and the panache that it had at E3, and it was really great to sit in and hear Cory talk about the game and explain the game and get to ask him some questions and hear responses to other questions to get some finer details about the game. And obviously they weren't ready to reveal everything. They're still tight-lipped on quite a bit of the title. But it's cool to know it's going in this unique direction while still retaining the flavor and flair that made God of War what it is. So rather than, you know, betray fans of the franchise and go in this bold new direction trying to capture a new audience, instead they are bringing the past fans along for the ride, along to a new point, a new level of God of War, a new era of God of War. And they said, you know, before Kratos was Hulk, Hulk, Hulk all the time, and now he still has Hulk in him, but he has some humanity, some sanity, and I like that. I think it's the evolution of the character. You can only scream for so many years before it gets tiresome, and you can only do that same style of camera, same style of combat for so long, same style of environment and, you know, characters and plot and world and Greek and all that for so long. So seeing them mix things up into the Norse world with an extensive focus and emphasis on narrative, with a much deeper and grander spotlight on RPG and resource management and crafting, like they're taking the game that had great combat roots and great brutality and great boss battles, and now bringing in so many other just checkboxes, and in ways that are really well done. It's not just adding features for the sake of a feature list. It's really taking, you know, a basket full of skill points and spreading it across the entire game without sacrificing anything. It seems like nothing is suffering from these additions and this expansion, except that the game is now going to be better. So I'm insanely excited for God of War 4. Let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Again, what kind of combat scenarios could we see with Kratos and Kid? What kind of puzzles could we see? What kind of environmental exploration? I hope there's some good secrets to find. I hope there's some beautiful vistas. We know there's going to be badass monsters and melee. And what else does that RPG system hold that they're not ready to show? What is the crafting like? And what all can Kratos do with a new set of weaponry and a sub-character alongside him? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, bringing you all the details and impressions and stuff from E3 2016. I've got more coming your way. Already been a bunch uploaded, so for trailers, gameplay, impressions, click on the playlist. There should be a link somewhere on the page. And until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. I love you. Hope you're having a fantastic day, week, month, and year. And until next time, cannot wait for God of War. Cannot wait for God of War 4. Until next time, we will see you all later. Later.